Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as Bruno Fernandez admits the players played a big part in the sacking of Erik ten Hag. Roy Keane, Paul Scholes and Gary Neville come out slamming the players as well. Agate's talking about Amorim, but what are you talking about Amorim? How big a job does he have? The interesting thing to get into, because look, boring, lazy are the headlines that are coming out. You know, even Paul Scholes saying about Rashford, he's tried to finish that chance too well when he should have just scored the goal. He's trying, almost like he's trying to show off. Very hard-hitting words from a lot of people before we get into yours and mine. But last night, after my match reaction, I've read some of the comments this morning. Some of you are quite happy with yesterday. Some of you are like, it's not that deep. You know, it's not that deep. They did their best. Chelsea are a really good side. We did okay. And I think this is really interesting, and it's one of the factors of Amorim. I tweeted it this morning, is that we need some leadership and we need some vision, because the contrast in opinions in our fan base at the moment are incredible. I've got people telling me Casemiro was world class. I thought he was below average. I've got people telling me Rasmus had a great game. I thought he was below average. I've got people telling me De Ligt had a bad game. I thought he was good. And the list goes on and on and on. It's chaos. It's just chaos. I'm not saying who's right and wrong. I just think everybody's got different opinions and different ideas. And that is dangerous because it just shows the chaos and mess that is around Manchester United at the moment. Everybody's just got so many different opinions. And there are some very toxic opinions about certain players. As I don't want to call myself out here at the start, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but I called this out last week. I said there is a growing Garnacho versus Rashford thing going on in our fan base. And if you want to pretend it's not going on, that's up to you. But it's very obvious and it's very toxic and I don't get it. It's the Ten Hag toxicity has not saved this fan base, and I predicted last Monday that it wouldn't. The angry people in this fan base will just move on to somebody else. They're not going to start holding hands and pretending, you know, everything's okay. It just moves on to something because they're angry, toxic people by nature, and they won't stop. So we're a horrible, horrible, horrible football club at the moment. It's a mess. It is boring. It is lazy. And we need Amorim to come in and lead from the front. And we've speculated for a week about what Amorim needs to do. We'll talk about that a little bit later in the show. But bottom line is, you can't be giving these people another chance. You've got to come in with your eyes wide open. If you've got Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, Gary Neville and most of the fan base saying what they can see yesterday with players, Amorim cannot come in and tell everybody that's seen it for years, I'm going to give them another chance. That's the biggest mistake he can make. It's his right. It's his decision. He can do it. And a lot of managers do it. They come in and go, everybody gets a clean slate. But the problem Amorim's got is he won't get that patience if he does that, because we've seen Mourinho give him a clean slate. Ollie give him a clean slate. Rangnick give him a clean slate. Ten Hag give him a clean slate. Nobody ever looks at the history. They just look at a clean slate. We, the fans, have seen the history. We know what these players are. We know what they're capable of. For the love of God, don't give them another clean slate, because they'll stab you in the back within 12 months. He's got to come in with a clear idea of what he wants to do. And look, forget the players. He's got to get the fans on side. The biggest problem at United at the moment is the infighting on nearly everything. Like RUUD van Nistelrooy yesterday, people are saying it's all right, doing a good job, keep him. I mean, look, I'll tell you what Roy Keane had to say, but everything, there is a division on absolutely everything. I don't think anybody agrees on anything at the moment, apart from Mazraoui, who has been an amazing signing. Right, let's get into it. Did you see Berbatov's interview explaining the struggle Rasmus and our strikers have to go through and that it's not ideal? Bigger problems, says Alex. Well, if he's talking about what we've been talking about, Alex, for a long time, and thank you for the first super chat of the show, lack of service, I would imagine. Patrick Lynch has given a super chat as well. He says, lack of leadership, cohesion, mobility, and overall the performance was lacklustre. Amorim definitely has a huge tax with just making us look like a team. Thank you very much, Patrick, as usual. And Zaki, thank you very much. I want to get into what Roy Keane had to say. He said, well, look, first of all, he basically said, Man United are almost boring. They're average at best. And I would applaud this. And look, I don't agree with a lot of what our ex-players say. And I think a lot of our ex-players put untold pressure on the club. But I think specifically when you're talking about yesterday, and I listened to Paul Scholes and I listened to Roy Keane and Gary Neville to a certain extent, I think in an isolated assessment on the Chelsea game, I understand where they're coming from. Because although they don't always talk consistent sense, I was very frustrated with yesterday because I've watched football for many years, and not just Man United, Chelsea when they've sacked a manager, Everton when they've sacked a manager. It is expected and normal for 4 or 5 games after you sack a manager to see a different team, a completely different team. It's on the players. So when you get all these comments we're going to go through from Roy Keane, which are basically saying the players are lazy and boring and average, it's because as an ex-player, he knows that they've sacked a manager and now they should be doing something to show why it was the manager's fault and not them. And you've got some of our fan base going, well, I actually think they did all right. I think they did all right. You know, it's not their fault. They're being coached by a coach that used to work with Ten Hag. So we're still blaming Ten Hag, even though he's been sacked, because RUUD's one of his coaches and he's telling the players what to do. And it's complete and utter horseshit. Like, these players are responsible for themselves. And I'm very surprised we didn't see better performances yesterday. I thought a lot of players were average or below average. And I think that's what frustrates the likes of Paul Scholes, Gary Neville, Roy Keane and everybody else, is that performance yesterday, whilst we didn't lose, was really lacklustre. And I expected more from them. And I think that's why some of the ex-players are annoyed, because they know, because they've played the game, that when a manager goes, you normally get a higher level of play from players who want to show everybody that they're not the problem. And if you're watching the game yesterday, you would look at it and go, well, this player here, this player here, this player here, they are massive problems at this football club and they can't change it. They can't even turn it on for us for a couple of games. Leicester reserves, and that's their limit. Anyway, let me go through some of Roy Keane's comments. I mean, look, I want to get your thoughts on this right at the start. I mean, there's some cracking comments about the players. And, you know, there's an interesting point from Bruno Fernandez that I want to get into. There's so much this morning. And obviously we'll get into your comments. But after the game, RUUD van Nistelrooy basically, obviously came out and said a few things. But he also said they're a great set of lads. While Roy Keane didn't hold back, he said this. He said, oh, don't worry about the result then. He said they're a great bunch of lads. That's key. And what Roy Keane is basically saying is they're not a great set of lads, are they? We're Manchester United. Like, what the hell are you talking about? So the result doesn't matter. They're just a great set of lads. And that's the real quiz. And I think you could sense the frustration from Roy Keane straight after what RUUD van Nistelrooy had said. That, oh, it doesn't matter about the result then. It doesn't matter that we're all bored, stupid of these players. The real quiz is that they're a great bunch of lads. And look, he also said as well, look, I'd rather they were a horrible set of lads and won games of football. And oh my God, how many times have we said this? How many times have we said this? I don't care about your books. I don't care about your charity work. I don't care about, you know, what you do off the pitch. Well, I do care, but what I mean is that's all fine and well. But some of our biggest legends are knobheads in real life. It doesn't matter. It's what they do in a Man United shirt. And Roy Keane is absolutely right. I don't care if they're a great set of lads. I'd rather they were a set of knobheads and played good football. I mean, a Man City player's a great set of lads. Don't know. Do we ever hear about what a great set of lads Man City are? No. I'll tell you what we do know. They've won multiple Premier League titles and a Champions League. So this great set of lads bollocks it's just not going to wash, is it? You know, it's not going to wash. We need better than that. We need better than a great set of lads. And I agree with Roy Keane on that. But he didn't stop there. Let's just go through some of Roy Keane's comments. He says, you always have sympathy for a manager losing his job. And ultimately, I think whatever the board do, whatever anyone else does, the players let him down by their efforts and not being good enough. We make the point about there's a few players in the team in big positions who can't run, which is a big problem. But they also have players who don't want to run, who when they do run, they don't run hard enough or run fast enough or long enough. And the players who aren't doing it, you've got to try and move them on, which is difficult because they're on long-term contracts. Can't I just stand up and applaud that? I mean, fucking hell. We've been saying this for ages. It needs... I mean, look, the horrific thing about the mainstream is it's like UK Gold. It takes bloody years for you to get the original opinion on there. It's just repeats of stuff that's been elsewhere. We have been saying this for years, and it's great. I mean, it's overdue. It's massively overdue. But you need people like this to have the balls to do it. Because the mainstream is so bloody watered down and diluted. I mean, for the first week of the season, the cameras, it was almost like player watch of Marcus Rashford. Like, they were just obsessed with the positive story. And that's not Rashford's fault. It's not Garnacho's fault. It's not Bruno's fault. But it's just a bloody pantomime around the mainstream. So when you get someone like Roy Keane, who, when he loses it and starts telling the truth, it's so bloody refreshing. Because I don't think I've heard anything on mainstream media as hard-hitting, as relevant, and as respected in years. Years. You've been saying it for years. I've been saying it for years. The wider fan base has been saying it for years. The club haven't been listening to it for years. But we've finally got somebody in the mainstream who is respected, who is a legend of this football club, who is the greatest captain we've had in the Premier League era and the greatest captain in Premier League history, who knows about leadership, who knows about running through barriers, who knows what it takes to win things. I wouldn't want him to be the manager, but I'd want him to be bloody listened to. I mean, this is a guy that stood in the middle of Old Trafford and won and lifted multiple trophies. He knows what is needed to succeed. And when he's saying there are players that won't run, there are players that don't want to run, there are players that when they do run, don't run fast enough or long enough, and they've got to go, but you can't get rid of them because they're on long-term contracts. I mean, we know who he's bloody talking about. We know who he's talking about. He's talking about Marcus Rashford. He's talking about Casemiro. He's talking about Bruno Fernandez. And he's talking about Anthony. And he's talking about Mason Mount. He's talking about Luke Shaw. He's talking about the players who are on long-term contracts and big money that we can't get rid of. And you know what? He's talking about it, not me. So you can clip me up and you can have a pop at me and you can start saying I've got a hate agenda. I'm talking about Roy Keane's comments that aren't hard to decipher. He's basically saying they are boring, overpaid, lazy, not good enough to wear that Man United shirt. And hallelujah, praise the Lord, because we've been saying it for bloody years, and at last we've got somebody saying it at exactly the right time. There is a new manager coming in. There is no manager to blame. You can't blame RUUD. You can't blame Amorim yet. You can't blame Ineos. You can't blame the Glazers. He is blaming a set of players that turned up to Old Trafford yesterday and were bang average and were boring and were complacent yet again, and nobody was there for an excuse. Nobody was there for an excuse yesterday. The only two players that walk out of yesterday with any sense, probably three. Onana didn't really do anything wrong. De Ligt and Mazraoui. The rest of them, average at best. And that ain't good enough. Not running hard enough, not running long enough, complacent. Well done, absolutely spot on by Roy Keane. And I'm not going to give him, a statue. I think he should get a bloody statue at Old Trafford, by the way. I think it's a fucking joke that if he never gets a statue. But he is the voice for what many of you have been saying for a long time. A very long time. And he also goes on to say, Ruben Amorim should have a longer contract. There's a long way back for this team. This is an average United team, and all the stats back it up. I feel like standing up and clapping again. I'm going to. Yeah, I mean, look, we've given Amorim a 2.5-year contract. Now, I don't know why. I don't know whether that's on Ineos. I don't know whether that's on Amorim. He ain't turning this around in 2.5 years. We should have given him a 5-year deal. Like, even if it goes wrong, we should have given him a 5-year deal. 2.5 years to sort out this shit. 5 years. 5 years. I mean, it is an absolute shit show. Roy Keane is right. You were right. How do you get rid? Look, if it's Amorim, if it's you, if it's anybody else, if you want to get rid of Bruno or Rashford or Casemiro or Luke Shaw, how do you get rid of them? So many people wander into the chat or onto social media or down the pub and go, we need to sell Luke Shaw. We need to sell Bruno Fernandez. Good, yeah, you might be right. Can you tell me how we're going to do it then? 3 or 4 years left on that contract, over 200 grand a week. How are we going to do that then? We're not. So we've got to keep picking them, haven't we? We've got to keep picking these players who aren't good enough, or we've got to hope that after years of being bang average, they're suddenly going to turn into really good players. So no, it's a massive, massive job for Amorim, an absolutely massive job. And I think, look, it's really interesting. Lots of people have different opinions. As I said, the fan base at the moment is chaotic because people have one opinion about that and someone else has an opinion like that, and I love this player and I hate this player and player FC. We need Amorim to come in and really steer the ship, because if that doesn't happen, then we're going to be back here again. And I would say at the moment, the chances of United being successful in 2.5 years and the chances of Man United sacking Amorim in 2.5 years, which way would you go? I mean, I might even do a poll on it. Which way would you go? Will we be successful or will he be gone? Simple as that. Zero Connection says, Dan Ashworth and co need to profile and remove players that aren't good enough. The key here is Zero Connection. And Roy Keane is right, and you are right, and Zero Connection is right. What is the answer to the most important question that everybody wants answering, but nobody ever answers at that club? Can you get rid of Luke Shaw if you want to? Can you get rid of Bruno Fernandez if you want to? Can you get rid of Marcus Rashford if you want to? And the answer is, this morning, on November the 4th, no, they can't. Nobody wants that to be the truth, but they can't. It's been proven year after year after year that they cannot remove players from that football club. And Ineos are no different, because Casemiro was a player they wanted to get out of the club in the summer. Rightly or wrongly, they did, and they couldn't. So Ineos are no different to the Glazers. They cannot do it. Why can't they do it? I don't really know. You've just spent £15 million getting rid of Ten Hag and another 15 million getting Amorim. So you found £30 million to sack a manager and replace him. Why can't you find the same amount of money to sack a player? Because it's more. It's more. And that's why. But we cannot, and Sanil's right, this is our biggest problem. Welcome to Sanil, he's one of our members. I can see the badge there, but he says that's the biggest problem. Wake up and smell the coffee. We all must. They cannot sack players. They can't. They just can't do it. They won't do it and they can't do it. And Roy Keane is right. There are a lot of players at this football club are huge problems, but they cannot sack them. And if you don't believe that, listen to the captain of Manchester United after the game yesterday. You have to take some of the blame on yourself, because it's the team that is doing... Sorry, let me read this all right. So in the context of selling players, this is Bruno Fernandez. You have to take some of the blame on yourself because it is the team that is not doing so well, and it is easier to get rid of a manager than 15 players. Even Bruno Fernandez, the captain, is saying it's easy to sack a manager, but you can't and you don't sack the players. I spoke to the manager and I apologised. We're not scoring goals and I feel responsible. I normally score a lot of goals, but I always give 100%, and he is aware of that. It's not good for anyone at the club when the manager goes. But the big line for me is it's easier to get rid of a manager than 15 players. If the captain of the football club knows that, everybody else knows it as well. They know they're not going anywhere. They know they're not culpable. They know, as well as we know, that they can't be sacked. They know, as well as we know, the manager will always be the fall guy. Now, Bruno Fernandez isn't sat there with a cigar going, forget about it. I'm going to stay. Bruno Fernandez, whatever you want to say about him, he does give 100%. But he knows, even as somebody that's committed, but not playing well, even though he's committed, he knows that he's not going anywhere and the manager's going somewhere. Imagine the players that aren't committed. They'll be like, I don't fucking give a shit. I ain't going anywhere, am I? And that's the biggest problem at the football club. Everybody knows, says the Irish, like the Irish movement says. Everybody knows. You got Roy Keane saying it publicly. You got the captain of the club saying it publicly. You got everybody you know, all of you known it for years. Man United's biggest problem is the failure to remove overpaid shit players. But everybody knows they can't do it. So all this bravado, and we need to start calling it out. We can't just keep doing this every 2.5 years. Oh, there's a new manager, everything, get Bob Marley out, everything is going to be all right. It's not going to be all right. It's not going to be all right. Because we've been here so many times. It won't be all right until the club grow a fucking pair and actually start doing what everybody needs to be done. I was walking down the street this morning, bumped into this old dear by accident. She wasn't looking where she was going. I said, sorry. And I said, can I just ask you a question as well? What's Man United's biggest problem? Doesn't even like football. She says, you need to get rid of the shit, but you'll never do it. See you later. Doesn't even like football. So why are we not asking this question? Why are we letting Ineos, the Glazers, off the hook? We all know the biggest problem at Man United. We will continue to fail by continuing to use the same failures. But they're going to just keep polishing the turd. They're going to keep papering the crack and going, there's a new guy in town. He's going to make it work. He ain't going to make it work. He's not going to make it work. All we're doing is, right, you're getting somebody round to decorate your living room, yeah? You keep going online and looking for the best painter decorator to do it, right? You get them round, you give them cheap paint, and you don't give them a paintbrush, and you say, right, I want a really good job. And then they don't do a good job, so you sack them. And then you bring another painter decorator in, and you don't give him the tools to do the job again. And this is what we keep doing. We bring good coaches in, and then we don't give them the tools to do the job, and then they get sacked. And then until we give people the tools, it won't work. And I think it needs calling out more. They won't sell certain players. There are players at Man United that are unsellable. There are players at Man United, therefore, that are bigger than the club. And it ain't just Rashford. It ain't just Bruno. There's 7 or 8 players at that club that are unsellable. They will not get rid of them. And the reason for that is because they use the word unsellable. Why the fuck do you need to sell them? Get rid of them. Get rid of them. If they go elsewhere and do well, so fucking what? Get rid of them. That's what needs to happen because the club's in a mess at the moment. People may not agree, but I'm fine with finishing 6th or 8th for 2 seasons if we focus on youth and bench overpaid players until contracts expire, says Abhijit. Ben Jones says 12 to 13 players need to be shipped out. Patrick Lynch says player contracts include image rights, etc. It's not just wages that are involved. Who knows how high some of these contracts run. Ben Jones says Man United need the Deadwood gone and we need 7 signings. Thank you very much for that. He knows you, Mark. Spoke to him in Cork, says MMA Takedown. As Liverpool supporter, I love this channel, but negativity in this community is crazy. Lots of time and patience needed with Amorim. Just remember Liverpool, says Zaki. But I do remember Liverpool. I do remember what Jurgen Klopp did. And Jurgen Klopp had the power to remove big players. Until we do that, we will never do it. Marlow says, I'm really happy we didn't play Chelsea off the park. Now Amorim can't have any illusions about the enormity of the job that lays on front of him, says Marlow. If we're not careful, Forest, the former European champions, will be fighting for top 4 before United, says. I mean, look, I would say top 4 is gone. I would say that top 4 for Manchester United is gone. We're not even in the top half of the table. Chelsea played badly yesterday and we couldn't take advantage of that. We maybe did enough to win the game, but we certainly didn't play well. I thought Chelsea played really, really badly. But the big problem with Manchester United is that the work rate and the fluidity is horrific. It's absolutely horrific. And I watch Fulham and they work hard and they have a style of play that they all understand. I watch Manchester United and it's not exclusive to yesterday. It's not exclusive to Ten Hag. It's not exclusive to Ollie. And it's not exclusive to Mourinho. And it's not exclusive to Van Gaal. I honestly, genuinely look at Man United over the last 10 years and I go, I can't remember 5 performances in a row where I was like proud of the way we played. We've won 5 games in a row, but it's not been pretty. We just don't look, we look like a bunch of strangers. We look like a bunch of strangers who don't like each other and don't want to work for each other. I mean, bloody hell, if you were going to war with that team, you'd put the white flag up and say, forget it. It's just no point. You haven't got my back. We're not fighting for a common cause. You're not coordinated. You're mercenaries, but you're not even willing to, you're not even mercenaries who will, you're not even, you won't even do it for the money. You'll just take the money and fucking run. I wouldn't go anywhere near. And I think that's been United for a long time. The fluidity and community is rubbish. I would love to be a fly on the wall. I genuinely think these players don't get on. I think they smile at each other's faces, but I genuinely think there's a lot of resentment there. I don't think they like each other. I think they'll smile at training, but I don't think they do. I think there's cliques. I think Martinez probably gets on with, Garnacho and a couple of other players and, but collectively, I don't think they get on. And it's not yesterday. This was going on with Rangnick, with the Ronaldo clique and the British clique. It's been going on for years. They don't get on. We've created a fucking monster. And you know why we've created a monster? Because we've overpaid and overinflated the ego of these players, and we've let them know they can't go. How many players have refused to leave over the last 6 years? What was that story of a couple of weeks ago about Paul Pogba, who wanted to go and they wouldn't let him go for 3 years? So yeah, it works the other way as well. It is absolutely ridiculous. But look, that's the job that Amorim has. And it's going to be very different. Croaking Lizard says, are you going to talk about Sir Jim's comment on the squad yesterday? I thought it was very interesting. Well, we spoke about it on the watch-along yesterday. Sir Jim Ratcliffe basically said that when he's had success with his boat and Formula One, fundamentally, you can't have success if you don't have the right components. Now, he didn't win the America's Cup with his boat. He lost to the New Zealand boat. But the point he made was it was capable of winning. We put everything in place to win, and we came up a little bit short. But it was a winning boat. It was capable of competing to win. When this Man United squad, it's not. And that's what he basically said. This squad isn't good enough. Well, it was a great premonition because it was before the Chelsea game. But if Sir Jim Ratcliffe thinks that about the squad, he's absolutely spot on. It's not controversial. At least he hasn't got his head buried in the sand. But the question is, what are you going to do? You can't keep buying players and then not getting rid of players. You've got to get rid of players because some of these players that need to go are very influential players. And they can influence new signings. Nobody cares about boats as to, yeah, but it's a fair enough story when it's the owner of Manchester United and he's using it as an analogy. You're just not intelligent enough to read it, probably. Hi, Mark. My opinion is that you need to give absolute power and control to the next manager to break the player power prevalent at the club, says Karan. And Ruben says, one of the first things Amorim needs to do, Ruben, you see, when he arrived here at Sporting was getting rid of Acuna, one of the best players who he later described as a problem in the dressing room. This needs to happen. Is he allowed to do it? Geordie says, Sir Jim seemed to understand that with his comments the other day, inferring that the squad wasn't good enough, but will he get rid of them? We can bench players. Do the players have the guts to do that? Support him, but Garnacho needs to be benched for the next game. Nothing should come, says Easy, says Akit. Look, I don't want to individualise it, and I don't really understand why people are individualising it. I've seen, I mean, to be honest with you, I'll cover this for a couple of minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but I find it really weird, if I'm being completely honest. It's very obvious to me that Garnacho had a bad game yesterday. He's got 6 goals and 4 assists this season. I think he won Player of the Month for last month. He's not had a bad season. He had a bad game yesterday. There is, whether people like this or not, there are people out there who criticise Garnacho because he had a bad game, but they like him. That's fine. There are people out there in our fan base who criticise Garnacho in a toxic way because they hate him. Now, you can pretend that's true or not, but it is true. It is true. So, this is the problem that we have at the moment, is that there are people out there who are going in on players, who are young players or new signings, who I don't understand what it is they think is going to happen at this football club. The Xerxes thing is weird. The Agate thing is weird. The De Ligt thing is weird. And the Garnacho and Rasmus thing is not helpful. You know, 3 of them are new signings and 2 of them are in their early 20 or in their early 20s. You're burning them. I've got no problem with people saying Garnacho played badly and he shouldn't start the next game. I don't necessarily disagree with you, and I don't actually care. But don't tell me it doesn't go beyond that. Because I see it in the media, the xenophobic behaviour, and I see it in our fan base. There are people out there who genuinely hate these players. And I am not going to give them any air. And I saw it in our live chat. I was at Old Trafford for the Brentford game with my son. I'm looking at the live chat, and the hate on Garnacho was unbelievable. Unbelievable. I'm watching the game and I'm like, I don't think he's had a bad first half at all. And it's Garnacho's this, Garnacho's that, Garnacho's this. Unfortunately, if you are criticising Garnacho for yesterday, you're absolutely correct. But unfortunately, it gets diluted by the hate campaign that's against him. It's vile. And it is there. I'm not making it up. I see it every fucking game. It's ridiculous. And then you'll get people going, but you do it to Rashford. No, I don't. I don't do it to Rashford. I gave him a 6 yesterday. I don't do it to Rashford at all. I think there's an argument that he's not playing very well. But I'm not abusive to players. I never have been abusive to players. not like that. No, I haven't. I always use, you know, I might have done it in an instant when a goal goes in, you're fucking rubbish or anything like that. But there is a vile movement against some of our players. I mean, the ridicule of Xerxes is horrific. I mean, he's sprinting through one-on-one and the centre-back catches him. Oh my God. Brand new signing, absolutely being destroyed by his own fan base. Liverpool would not do that to Nunez. They wouldn't do that. Why are Liverpool fans better with their players than us? What's happened to this football club? Why are we burning new signings? And I don't get it. I don't get it. I really just don't get it. But going back to Garnacho, he played badly yesterday. There is no doubt about it. He played badly yesterday. And I think when you look, Paul Scholes said about Marcus Rashford, that chance before half-time, he's tried to finish that too well. You know, he's almost doing a show-off finish, a bit like Dalot last week. Very critical of Paul Scholes. I don't know about that. I mean, I was never a striker, so I don't know that. Paul Scholes is one of the most gifted English players we've had of a generation. If he's saying that Marcus Rashford's, you know, gone for the Hollywood finish there, then maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong. But I think that what is not in doubt is that our wingers are selfish. That they're selfish. Like, we know this. I mean, I might be about to have my Roy Keane moment, but we know this. We absolutely know this. There is zero service to the striker from the wing. We don't have overlapping fullbacks, so there is zero service to the striker from the wing. There is a situation yesterday where Garnacho holds onto the ball, Mazraoui makes the overlap, he ignores him, Chelsea end up on the break. He could have slipped it into Mazraoui and Xerxes on the back post. Now, I'm not saying Mazraoui's going to play the instant cross, but the way he was playing yesterday, it probably would have been pinpoint. And maybe Xerxes misses it, maybe he scores it, but the pass had to go to Mazraoui. And our wingers are selfish. Like, they are really selfish. And that includes Garnacho, who I like. That includes Rashford, who I like. That includes Anthony. That you know, they're very, very selfish players. They hold on to the ball for too long. They don't pass. And they're so predictable. They're really predictable. So that needs to change. They don't track back hard enough either. I mean, the amount of times yesterday I saw Gusto and Cucurella running unchecked at our fullback for the overlap. And I'm like, if Chelsea get this right, there's nothing Mazraoui or Dalot can do. You can't deal with two players. And it happens every fucking week. I thought under Ten Hag that this was because Ten Hag was telling them not to bother. But somebody said it yesterday. Is RUUD telling them not to bother as well? Did Rangnick tell them not to bother? Why do our wingers not track back? You see Mo Salah doing it. You see Saka doing it. You see Anthony Gordon doing it. And I've just named three. You see Diaz doing it. Doku doing it. I'm naming the best wingers in the league. Son, they do it. They track back and they work hard because if they don't, they'll be subbed off. But at United, I wouldn't mind if they didn't do it and they were scoring hat-tricks and if we're winning 4-3, I don't care. They're not doing it and we're playing shit. And it's lazy. It goes back to what Roy Keane said. It's lazy. Our wingers are lazy. They are. Collectively, our wingers are lazy. They don't work hard enough. They don't create chances. And they don't score goals either. They don't do the job they're meant to do. Now, the interesting thing for me is that at 20 years of age, Garnacho is exactly the sort of player that I think Amorim can pull aside and go, you're going to do this or you're not going to be playing. And there's time for him to change. I think Anthony's a lost cause. I think Ahmad has potential. We don't know why Ahmad doesn't start. And Marcus Rashford, well, look, he's 27. He ain't going anywhere, is he? So maybe he can get something out of Rashford as well. But he's got to sit all four of them down and say, look, you're not playing if you don't pass. And you're not playing if you don't work hard. And it's sad. It's sad that two of the basic fundamentals of a professional footballer has been lost by so many of our players. The ability to work hard and run and the ability to play a simple pass. I mean, this is like, I watch a lot of football. I go and watch Seb a lot. You know, we're talking under eights and they know to run and they know to pass. And we're talking about professional footballers that are in the top minute percentage of elite footballers. You don't play for Man United by chance. Every player, even if it's a player you don't like, to wear that Man United shirt have battled from a kid to that age through multiple barriers. They've leaped hurdles. They've been the best in this level, that level, that level, that level. They've made it. There is no doubting, even if you don't like a player, there is no doubting the work they have done through their career to get where they are is immense. Nobody's picked them up and said, you will play for Man United. So they've done it. The sad thing is they've stopped doing it. Something at Manchester United has stopped these players who've worked their arse off through multiple, tests to get to the elite level of football, and then they've downed tools. Why have we allowed that? Why have they allowed that? Amorim should bench the problem players and play the youth. This is the only way to break and build. However, 2 years is not enough for such a strategy, says Enzumo. Ray Carl Brown Amori says, Player FC, they're showing hate on Garnacho because they want Ahmad in too much. Agendas with our fan base. Look, Ray, I don't do Player FC. I'm only interested in Manchester United. What I do appreciate is that, like, some people think that everyone's going to agree with their opinion. Grow up. Some people think that their opinion's the only one that matters. Grow up. Some people just want to see the world burn. There is a toxic element in our fan base, whether you like it or not. Now, some people will throw back, it's you, because they're toxic and they want to, reflect. I don't care who plays for Manchester United. I don't care if Ahmad plays on the right and Rashford plays on the left and Garnacho sits on the bench for the rest of the season. I don't care if Rashford, as long as Rashford and Ahmad play well. I don't care. I have no horse in the race. I prefer Garnacho to Rashford because I think he's got a higher ceiling. But if Rashford plays well, pick him. But for the love of God, I think we're all on the same page. Stop putting Garnacho or Rashford on the right wing. It's damaging to them. Start one on the left, put Ahmad on the right. You need to buy another right winger anyway. Ahmad on the right, Garnacho or Rashford on the left, and leave it. And then what happens yesterday is, if Garnacho's having a bad game like he did yesterday, on 60 minutes you take him off and you bring Rashford on. But what do we do? What do we do for the how manyth time this season? We start Garnacho on the right, we start Rashford on the left, we swap them over, neither of them have a good game, Ahmad comes on for the last half an hour, Rashford goes off, and the left winger stays on. What logically should have happened yesterday? Ahmad starts on the right, Garnacho starts on the left, Garnacho has a bad game, Rashford comes on. But we can't do that, because we've had to start both. So Rashford comes off, Ahmad comes on, Garnacho stays on. You know what? I'm not having a pop at RUUD. Ten Hag's been sacked. But in a global sense, you're feeding the shit. They're both starting. They're both not playing well. They're both not working hard. And there's no accountability. The only issue is if you're on the right wing, you're going to get subbed for Ahmad. But there is no left wing accountability. You don't get subbed on the left wing. If you start, you stay there. And that, how can that be right? It's so obvious what needs to be done. Abdul says they played bad, but it's not a charity. They are not here because they love the club. They're being paid to be here regardless of age or time. Best is yet to come. Manchester United will be great against Asia. That post on United Stand says that the players want RUUD, wants to stay, to be a connector is reason enough to let RUUD go, in my opinion, says Glenn C. Let me have a quick look at that. I haven't seen that. I want to talk about Amorim, but let me just have a quick look at this. See if I can find it for you. Thanks everybody for tuning in, by the way. Make sure you subscribe, smash a like on the video and all that jazz. Beyond Van Nistelrooy, there is also a strong desire for Darren Fletcher, currently first team coach, to remain under Amorim. Some tweaking... Okay, there's a few quotes coming out here. Man United players want Ruud Van Nistelrooy to remain at the club when Ruben Amorim takes charge as their connector, appreciating the way he's communicated with them. Fuck off. Literally go fuck off. Absolutely jog on. I couldn't give a shit what Man United players want. I really, genuinely, I'm getting very angry with this. I couldn't give a fucking shit whether you want a connector. So basically, you like RUUD and you want RUUD to be there as your mate, as the sandwich to Amorim. Amorim's fucked if that happens. He's absolutely fucked. So RUUD van Nistelrooy is the guy they like, and he's the guy who goes to the manager and says they don't like what you're doing. They don't like what you... Fuck off. No way. Absolutely not. Get rid of RUUD, bring Amorim in, and any player that's got a problem can go and speak to Amorim and say, I don't like what you're doing, and you can fuck off as well. Absolute joke. No way in a million years. Absolute pampered twats. No way. No way. Absolutely none. What the hell has RUUD van Nistelrooy got to do with Amorim? They don't even know each other. Why the hell should RUUD van Nistelrooy stay as the mate of the players as a little buffer? No chance. Absolutely no chance. No, absolutely not. And Darren Fletcher, bollocks. No. We've been shit for years. Why would you listen to the players and what they want? Why would you say, lads, you're a great set of lads. How can we... Forget the new manager. How can we help you? How can we make you carry on being shit? Well, we really like RUUD to stay because we like him. And if we've got any problems, we can tell RUUD and then he can tell Amorim. Yeah, that would really help. Oh, God. It's woke nonsense. It's absolute shite. Absolute nonsense. And we wonder why we're shit. They need a kick up the arse. They need a manager that comes in and kicks them into the reserves. They need a manager that sells them. They need a manager that says, fuck off moaning and get out of this football club. You privileged twats. Like, if you don't like it, that's what your agent's for. Move. Go and play for fucking Everton. Take a pay cut. Privileged twats. No, absolutely. Entitled prats, says Soham. They're on... What the fuck? What are we doing at this football club? Why do we care what they think? Does Pep have a connector? Does Arteta... Did Klopp have a connector? Come on. Absolute bullshit. Nonsense. There is a swell of support to keep RUUD at Carrington in some capacity after his period as interim manager ends. Van Nistelrooy is esteemed by the leadership group for the way he carries himself, along with all the staff and the first team operations. No concrete decisions have been taken on the makeup of Amorim's backroom staff yet, but the incoming coach does want to bring in 5 of his colleagues from Sporting, including his long-time assistant. Some tweaking of responsibilities would be required to keep RUUD at the club, but the club legend has stressed his openness to helping in a different way. He's also thrown his support behind Amorim and has said on more than one occasion that he would love to speak to him. I mean, look, honestly, I like RUUD. I think we all like RUUD, but why are we being a charity? I said this last week. What correlation has he got to Amorim? You may as well bring Roy Keane in. I'd rather bring Roy Keane in. He talks sense. Like, why are we a fucking charity at Man United? What about RUUD van Nistelrooy? If you take emotion away, because I like him, he's a legend, but what about RUUD van Nistelrooy actually means that we should keep him beyond sentimentality? Like, what about him makes him relevant to Amorim? Nothing. Nothing. There is nothing relevant. Ten Hag brought RUUD van Nistelrooy in. Why not keep Rennie Heck? Because he didn't play for the club. He's not a legend. Like, we need to grow up. What are we doing? Why are we doing that? There is no correlation between RUUD van Nistelrooy and Amorim other than sentimentality because it'd be nice to keep him. Do Man City do nice? No, they fucking don't. They do win. They deal in win. I want to win. I don't see the point. If Amorim says he wants to keep him, keep him. If Amorim doesn't want him, get rid of him. Don't impose on a manager because you're losing from day one. And as I said, if we want to keep a legend, ask Roy Keane if he'll come in and fucking do it. I don't get why we keep doing this all the time. Sentimentality FC. I like RUUD, but he was Ten Hag's appointment. Roy Keane said it yesterday. If he's about that, he'll leave anyway because he'll feel that he was Ten Hag's guy and he's got loyalty to him. Well, clearly he doesn't feel like that. RUUD doesn't feel like he's Ten Hag's guy because he said afterwards, I want to stay. So Carrick went because he felt like he was Ollie's guy. There was probably a job for Carrick and he went because he felt like he was Ollie's guy and he wanted to go with him. This is, you know what? I'm not liking this at all. I'm not liking it at all. Not liking anything about it at all. I think it's damaging to RUUD, actually, that sort of story. I wouldn't be happy about it if I was RUUD van Nistelrooy because it makes it sound like he's player FC and it makes it sound like, we're just going to keep him because he's an ex-player. And straight away, I don't think it helps Amorim because we know how the press work in this country. And it'll be like, well, RUUD, maybe RUUD's there again. As Sylv says, it undermines Amorim. I get rid of it. He knows the club, such a tired cliche. I know the fucking club. You know the club. Again, this is what Ineos need to sort out. This absolute shit. And we need, you know what? There'll be people going, I want him to stay. I thought we played well yesterday. I think you're being harsh on the players. I think you're overreacting. I think you're moaning. Good. I am moaning because we're in the bottom half of the table. Like, we're starting a new journey. This is not Ten Hag anymore. This is a new journey. We need a fucking reset. Every time we hit the reset button, there's always an if. There's always a but. It's a brand new start, but you can't sell any players and you've got to use the coach from the previous guy. But it's a new start. It's a brand new start, but you can't sell him. Yeah, every fucking time. Sacking Jose because of boring play might be one of the worst things we have done, considering losing basics and mentality. When are these players going to take responsibility, says Ryan. Our players, 30-year-old physique with 5-year IQ, says Akil. These players are actually hilarious. They're grown men, says Joe Wright. Chelsea is a net 5th in the league and we are nowhere near that. So is a draw really that shocking? We are not good. They play like strangers. No units, says Parker. Some of us remember how Ronaldo was 2003 to 2006, says Jonas. Yes, there is no patience in this fan base. Ronaldo was ridiculously frustrating the first 18 months. You could say first 3 years, but certainly the first 18 months. He was ridiculously frustrating. If Ronaldo was around now, I worry. People always say if Sir Alex Ferguson was around now, they worry because of social media. If Ronaldo was around now, when we first bought him, oh my God. I mean, most of you were probably still up your mum's chuff, so you won't know. But those of us who weren't, Ronaldo in the first 18 months, he'd have fucking... There are specific people in our fan base who would be fucking hating on him. Absolutely hating on him. So when I say try and protect new signings in young players and just take a deep breath and be patient, it comes from a place of knowledge. I saw the class of 92 come through. They weren't brilliant from day one. Far from it. And what people forget about the class of 92 is that, yes, we won the double with kids in 96, but 4 or 5 of those players had been playing for a couple of years, sporadically. They didn't hit the ground running. So, yeah, Ronaldo in his first 2 years at United, oh my God, with modern social media... I mean, talk about not passing. He used to do about 50 bloody pirouettes and foot stepovers. Amorim should bench the problem players and play the youth, says Enzumo. Thank you very much. There was something else I wanted to talk about. It's just some comments from Agate. So he said that I saw that the Sporting fans were upset, and that's understandable because the coach is a great coach. It's good for United. We have to take advantage of it and get him to convey his ideas as quickly as possible. I think it's going to be a different dynamic, and the day-to-day will be similar to Sporting's, the league, the country, the football. It's a big challenge for him, but we all know he has the ability. It's a positive, mainly because the club needs to start building a path, which is important, and the coach is going to be key to that. He's very hungry to win, and that's important, and I think he's going to enjoy it at Manchester United. Well, look, that's from Agate on Amorim there. I think that there is no... Somebody just said it's a generational thing, that there's no patience. Mate, no one's got any patience. I mean, literally, most of you on social media are swiping every fucking few seconds. I mean, it's not your fault. There is... You are living in a society that inflicts impatience on you. I mean, you can defy it, and I hope many of you do. But fair play. To be fair, most of you do watch the United stand, and we're not a 5-minute show. So there is some level of patience there because you're fighting against it just by doing that. Most of the world wants you to swipe and indoctrinate you into a short 30-second message every fucking time you go on social media. So we live in that type of a society. Patience is key, and it doesn't exist, and it's a worry. And it brings me nicely onto Amorim, because he needs patience more than anybody. Only time will tell whether we should have stuck with Ten Hag. We definitely should have stuck with Jose, and there was no patience there. When things go wrong, we don't have any patience. I look at Amorim, and I think I sort of agree with Abhijit. I hope things get a bit... I hope we don't have a massive bounce in the first year. It would worry me. It would worry me if certain players started playing amazing for the first 6 months of Amorim, because I'd go, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. Like, the last 18 months, you've been shit. And now a manager comes in and you're good again for the first 12 months or 8 months or 6 months or whatever. I actually hope Amorim's done his homework, because, I mean, look, you can highlight players. You can literally look at players and go, oh, first year under Ten Hag, really, really good. Last year, not very good. Oh, first 6 months under Amorim, really good. We need to look at these things. The Duke says, watching United is sad. The hold of the ball that kills play. No composure and control in distribution. The delays up front is sickening. Prayers up, says the Duke. Look, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes talking about Amorim, because when you look at it like this, the biggest issue we have is we are shit. Like, we are really boring. We are really incohesive. We have no patterns. We don't work hard. We're lazy. It's October. You need a whole pre-season for what Amorim's going to do. I mean, I almost want to go back and look at how how Villa were playing under Gerrard and what Emery did in the first few weeks, because that needs to be studied. I mean, the 2 years that Villa have had is amazing. It's November, it's not October, sorry. But the point is, it doesn't matter whether it's December. This guy's coming in with a style of play that this team is not suitable for. He has to endure. Rangnick tried it for half an hour and abandoned it. Ten Hag abandoned it. He has to stick with it, and we have to support him with it. Like, if he wants to play a 3-4-3 like Sporting play, he's got to do it. And even if we're losing games, and even if players can't do it, he has to stick with it. Like, I don't care if we don't win for a month. He's just got to, you've got to do it. It's like going in your back garden and trying to, learn how to skateboard, and you keep falling off. Do you go back inside and watch the chase, or do you keep going with your bumps and your bruises? You got to keep going this time. We've got to support it. Now, I don't know whether we're capable of doing that. If you go and get smashed at the Emirates 4-0, are people going to put up with it? Well, I would blame the players. I think we have to put it on the players. They earn enough money. We've got to put it on the players and stick with the manager. But he has to do that. He's got to, if he's going to play a 3-4-3 and he's going to play the way he does, he's got to stick with it. He can't abandon it for results. And the club at the top have got to say, we're employing you to get them to play that style of football. We're not going to sack you. We will ignore the prats in the media. We will ignore the call-ins. We don't care if you lose 7 or 8 games between now and Easter. Stick to the plan and find out who can do it. Because if half this team can't do it, that's on us for bringing you in. But you've got to stick to the plan. There is no point Amorim coming in and going, I can't do it, let's play counter-attacking football. Because that's not what he is. So that, to me, is the biggest thing for Amorim, is that he, by hook or by crook, he's got to stick to the plan. He's got to say, this is the way we're going to play. If you can play in my system, happy days. If you can't, I'm not using you. And that leaves you with, if Amorim's going to be stubborn and stick to the plan, how many of these current players can play like that? Well, they've got to learn to run. They've got to learn to be less selfish. They've got to learn to pass. I mean, selfishness is a big word at Man United at the moment. Selfishness is not just shooting. Selfishness is not refusing to pass. Selfishness is also not running for your teammate, not having your teammates back, not helping them out. Like, selfish is the word that runs through that team at the moment. Nobody's looking out for each other. Nobody's working for each other. No one's passing to each other. Nobody's working for the greater good. They're all working for the individual. I mean, I genuinely think there are players in that team that when they've got the ball, they're thinking about, this is my moment. This is my moment. This is my moment. Whereas I think when you look, I've glowed up Man City a little bit. When you watch Manchester City, I know they lost at the weekend, but they're not thinking, how do I score a goal when they've got the ball? They're thinking, how do we score a goal? How do we get the result? You saw it when they got that John Stones header against Wolves. Collectively, they're in it together. I don't see that. You know what? I mean, I hate the fact that when Man City score a goal, they're all smiling and hugging each other and happy. I don't really get that sense with Manchester United. But Amorim's got to stick to the plan. George says, Player FC needs to end with new coach and coach must be allowed to remove them all if he needs to. I'm sick and tired of these jokers sacking managers. Thank you, George. Akil says, our players say they want to win. Yeah, ask them if they want to win by working hard or the easy way. They will take 5 seconds to answer that. Trust me. Watching United is sad, says the Duke. The hold of the ball that kills play. No composure and control and distribution. The delay, I've done that one, haven't I? Do we project too much onto players with regard to their ability? Are we basing how good players are on potential or on how good they were in the past? We need to be more realistic. The trouble is, Patrick, we pay money to players who aren't worth that wage. So if you've got a player on 250 grand a week, you look at who else is on 250 grand a week in the Premier League and you expect that. That's not the fans' fault. We overpay. So we're paying some players 300 grand a week. When you look at who's on 300 grand a week, you're talking, Bernardo Silva's not on that. You're talking the Sakas. You're talking the top players. We pay for what we don't get. So you're right. We do expect too much from players who aren't good enough. But United put them on that pedestal with the PR and the wage. I want him to stay. I thought we played well yesterday, says Joe Wright. And Ryan, we've done that one as well. We're back at 2 o'clock. I'm in the Goldbridge Arms at midday. Look at where we are in the league. If he was in charge yesterday, we would have got a class 92. I don't know why you're talking about Ten Hag. We fell into that trap yesterday. Why are you talking about Ten Hag? He's been sacked. He got sacked a week ago. Are you still saying that it's Ten Hag's fault that the players are shit? I don't even know why we're having that conversation anymore. I fell into that trap yesterday. I read the comments. You're absolutely correct. Why are we talking about Ten Hag? He's been sacked. He didn't manage the team yesterday. They're not robots. They are individual players who don't run. They are individual players who don't pass. They are individual players who aren't good enough. What's that got to do with Erik Ten Hag? You're deflecting onto something. Move on. Talk to me about why certain players don't run, don't pass, are selfish. Talk to me why they don't like each other. Talk to me why there's no cohesion. That's what we're talking about here. And we're talking about what the next manager's going to do. D. Freezy says he's part of the reason he bought a load of these players. But it's not relevant. How is that relevant? He's gone. He's been sacked. How do we solve it? I genuinely don't get the point in talking about Ten Hag. He's been sacked. He's gone. Like, whether he bought bad players or not, he's not responsible for Rashford playing shit. He's not responsible for Garnacho playing shit. He's not responsible for Bruno playing shit. And if he's responsible for players that he bought that are shit, well, the club need to sell them. We spent 10 minutes talking about that at the start of the show. He's gone. Are you going to keep blaming him for now? He's gone. How are you going to solve it? Ineos have to get rid of those players then, don't they? If you don't like Anthony, Ineos need to get rid of him. If the players aren't playing well enough, he's not coaching them anymore. Like, we've got to live in the now. Stop living in the past. It's gone. He's been sacked. He's gone. If you don't like some of his signings, well, it's Ineos's problem. Or it's Amorim's problem. That's exactly what we're talking about. Like, these players need to be gone. They need to get rid of them. I see comments where people are going, well, it's Ten Hag's fault. Well, he's gone. He's been sacked for it. Like, he's gone. What's your point? Obviously, it was his fault. He's been sacked. So he's not responsible anymore. So if you don't like his signings, then Ineos need to sell them, which is exactly what we were talking about half an hour ago. How do we solve these problems? We need to start selling players. But as Roy Keane says, they won't do it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'll tell you what, do not miss the pub at midday. I haven't mentioned Martinez's red card. I'm going to lose my shit about it. Speak to you all in a bit. Take care.